Typhoon Matmo, the 21st named storm of the 2025 Pacific typhoon season, made a ferocious landfall in southern China on Sunday afternoon, unleashing torrential rains, destructive winds, and widespread disruption across Guangdong and Hainan provinces. The storm arrived at the height of China's National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival holiday period, a time when over 2.36 billion trips were expected nationwide, amplifying the chaos and logistical strain. Matmo struck the eastern coast of Sichuan County in Guangdong Province around 2:50 p.m. local time, packing maximum sustained winds of 151 kilometers per hour, 94 miles per hour. Classified as a Category 14 storm, it became the strongest typhoon to hit Guangdong this year. The China Meteorological Administration issued a red-level typhoon warning, the highest in its four-tier system, signaling extreme danger and triggering emergency protocols across the region. In anticipation of Matmo's landfall, Chinese authorities evacuated approximately 347,000 residents from high-risk and coastal areas. Hainan province alone relocated 197,856 people, while Guangdong evacuated 151,000. Over 10,000 emergency personnel were deployed to assist with evacuations, flood control, and disaster relief operations. Provincial Deputy Party Secretary Meng fondly urged local officials to swiftly go into battle mode and ensure no casualties and minimal losses, emphasizing the importance of safety during the holiday travel surge. The typhoon's arrival paralyzed transportation networks. Flights and ferries in Hainan were canceled starting Saturday evening, stranding thousands of tourists and residents. Public transport systems, including buses and trains, were suspended in multiple cities. In Macau and Zhanjiang, streets turned into rivers as flash floods inundated urban areas. In Hong Kong, over 100 flights were canceled due to persistent showers and gusts, while the Waterbomb Hong Kong music festival was postponed amid safety concerns. Matmo's storm surge-battered coastal communities. Waves up to 5 meters high pounded the shores of Yangjiang's Hailing Island and villages in Wuchuan and Zhanjiang, flooding roads and homes. In Zhanjiang, footage showed streets strewn with broken tree branches and debris, a testament to the storm's violent winds. Rainfall totals ranged from 100 to 249 millimeters, 3.93 to 9.8 inches, in parts of Guangdong and Hainan, raising fears of landslides and river overflow. In Macau, although not directly in Matmo's path, classes and tutoring sessions were canceled due to adverse weather conditions. While full damage assessments are ongoing, preliminary estimates suggest economic losses in the hundreds of millions of yuan. Agricultural regions suffered significant setbacks, with crops submerged and irrigation systems overwhelmed. Tourism, a vital economic driver in Hainan, was severely impacted as holiday plans were upended and resorts shuttered. Before reaching China, Matmo had passed through the Philippines, affecting over 220,000 people across 5 northern provinces. Nearly 35,000 residents were forced to evacuate to emergency shelters or relatives' homes due to flood and landslide risks. Following its landfall in China, Matmo weakened into a severe tropical storm and began moving northwest toward northern Vietnam and China's Yunnan province. Thailand's Meteorological Department warned of heavy rains in the north, northeast, and east regions on Monday and Tuesday. Meanwhile, Zhanjiang, Maoming, and Yangjiang were among the hardest-hit cities. In Zhanjiang, entire neighborhoods were submerged as storm surges overwhelmed sea defenses. Streets turned into rivers, and vehicles floated through intersections. The city's drainage system, designed for moderate rainfall, collapsed under the deluge, leaving thousands stranded. In Maoming, the storm tore through residential zones, uprooting trees and collapsing rooftops. The city's port infrastructure suffered extensive damage, with cranes toppled and shipping containers scattered like debris. Power outages affected over 120,000 households, and emergency crews worked through the night to restore electricity and clear blocked roads. Zhanjiang reported multiple landslides in its mountainous outskirts, cutting off rural villages and damaging key transport arteries. Rescue teams deployed drones and amphibious vehicles to reach isolated communities. On Hainan Island, known for its tropical resorts and booming tourism industry, Matmo forced the closure of airports, railways, and highways. Haikou and Sanya suspended all flights and ferry services, stranding thousands of travelers. Hotels were converted into emergency shelters, and local authorities evacuated over 80,000 residents from low-lying areas. Wenchang, a coastal town near China's Space Launch Center, saw seawater inundate its historic district. Fishing villages along the eastern coast were devastated, with boats destroyed and homes flattened. The agricultural sector suffered heavy losses, with banana and rubber plantations submerged under floodwaters. China's Ministry of Emergency Management activated a Level 1 disaster response, mobilizing over 10,000 personnel, including military units, firefighters, and medical teams. Helicopters and amphibious vehicles were deployed to rescue stranded residents, while temporary shelters were set up in schools and stadiums. The evacuation of 347,000 people across Guangdong and Hainan was one of the largest in recent years. Authorities credited early warnings and community drills for minimizing casualties. Despite the scale of destruction, no fatalities were reported as of October 6th. Urban flooding in Zhanjiang and Maoming revealed outdated drainage networks unable to handle extreme rainfall. Retrofitting and expansion are urgently needed. High winds downed transmission lines, causing widespread outages. Underground cabling and smart grid technologies could enhance resilience. Coastal embankments failed in multiple locations, suggesting the need for reinforced seawalls and adaptive flood barriers. Railways and highways were paralyzed, highlighting the need for elevated and storm-resistant transport corridors. Experts warn that climate change is increasing the frequency and intensity of typhoons in the region. Warmer ocean temperatures and shifting wind patterns are fueling stronger storms, and urban expansion into flood-prone areas is compounding the risk. The agricultural sector, particularly in Hainan, faces long-term setbacks due to crop destruction and soil erosion. Tourism, a key revenue source for the island, is expected to suffer a sharp decline in the fourth quarter. Small businesses in coastal cities reported extensive damage to inventory and property. Insurance claims are expected to surge, and local governments are preparing emergency relief packages. Reconstruction efforts will focus on housing, transportation, and public utilities, but funding gaps remain a concern. In Zhanjiang's Chiken district, residents formed human chains to rescue elderly neighbors trapped in flooded homes. Volunteers distributed food and water, while medical teams treated injuries and provided psychological support. In Haikou, hotel staff sheltered stranded tourists and coordinated with authorities to arrange safe departures. More than 100 flights were disrupted in Hong Kong on Sunday due to Typhoon Matmo, with 29 cancelled, according to the airport authority. The observatory cancelled all typhoon signals at 10:20 p.m. on Sunday, after having downgraded the number 3 alert to number 1 at 3:40 p.m. as Matmo moved away from the city. With Matmo departing, The weather will improve over the coast of Guangdong on the Mid-Autumn Festival on Monday, it said. The authority, which operates Hong Kong Airport, said that as of 11 p.m., 29 flights had been cancelled, with at least 81 delays caused by the typhoon. The authority advises passengers to check with their airlines for the latest flight information and allow sufficient time for traveling to the airport when their seats and flight time are confirmed, it said. Hong Kong flag carrier Cathay Pacific Airways and Hong Kong Airlines have warned passengers that flights may be affected by the typhoon. Greater Bay Airlines has announced delays to 13 flights departing from or arriving in Hong Kong, scheduled for Sunday. According to the airport's website, the cancelled flights included 2 outbound ones to Haikou and 3 inbound ones from the mainland Chinese city on the northern coast of Hainan Island. Haikou has been under the highest red rain warning since around 9 a.m. as Matmo approached. Matmo made landfall in Yunnan County, Zhanjiang, Guangdong, as a severe typhoon at 2:50 p.m., with a maximum sustained wind speed near the center of 151.2 kilometers per hour, 94 miles per hour, according to the China Meteorological Administration. It prompted the mainland authorities to issue its top red typhoon warning for the first time this year. In Macau, the number 8 typhoon warning signal was issued at 2 a.m. on Sunday, which brought the gaming hub's ground public transport to a halt. The warning was downgraded to number 3 at 1 p.m. The Ngongping 360 cable car attraction said its services had been suspended under the number 3 signal but would resume once the weather improved. Hong Kong Disneyland Resort also confirmed the park would open with limited operations as all outdoor attractions would be suspended under the number 3 signal. Matmo, meaning heavy rain in the Chamorro language of Guam, is the 12th cyclone to prompt a warning signal in Hong Kong this year, the most since 1946. However, the observatory also earlier warned that the typhoon season was not yet over, as the sea surface temperature in the western Pacific Ocean was expected to be higher than average from October to early November, which would be conducive to tropical cyclones and their entry into the South China Sea. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh on October 6 signed dispatch number 188/CDTTG, urging proactive measures to cope with the risk of flash floods, landslides and inundation caused by Typhoon Matmo, the 11th to hit the East Sea this year. The directive was sent to the chairpersons of the People's Committees of 14 northern provinces and cities, namely Chao Bang, Lao Cai, Lang Sun, Bac Ninh, Tai Nguyen, Tuen Quang, Phu Tho, Sun La, Dien Bien, Lai Chau, Hanoi, Haiphong, Hung Yen, Ninh Binh, and the north-central province of Thanh Hoa. It also reached the Ministers of National Defense, Public Security, Agriculture and Environment, Industry and Trade, Education and Training, and Science and Technology, along with the Office of the National Steering Committee for Civil Defense. According to the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting, on the morning of October 6th, the storm made landfall in Guangxi, China, near the Vietnam-China border, before weakening into a tropical depression. However, its circulation is forecast to bring heavy rainfall and thunderstorms on October 6th and 7th. Rainfall of 100 to 200 millimeters, with localized downpours exceeding 300 millimeters, is expected in northern mountainous and midland areas. The Red River Delta and Thanh Hoa are forecast to see 50 to 150 millimeters of rain, with some areas recording over 200 millimeters. The downpour follows several days of heavy rain linked to Typhoon Boiloy, which have left many areas waterlogged, reservoirs full and rivers swollen, creating a very high risk of flash floods, landslides, and severe flooding in northern mountainous, midland and north-central regions, as well as urban inundation in low-lying areas. To safeguard lives and minimize property losses, the PM instructed provincial and city leaders, particularly in mountainous and midland areas, to mobilize resources and enforce robust measures. Local authorities should consider online learning in place of in-person schooling where conditions warrant. Communities at risk must be closely monitored, with households in vulnerable areas relocated ahead of time. Authorities are required to provide timely warnings, restrict movement on dangerous routes, and station forces to manage traffic through inundated or landslide-prone areas. Essential supplies, equipment, and food must be pre-positioned in locations likely to face isolation. Ministries and agencies involved are to coordinate the military, police, and local forces in disaster prevention, search and rescue, and post-disaster recovery, while ensuring the regular, timely, and accurate dissemination of forecasts and warnings.